All right. Well, the Raiders are officially out of the playoff race, but let's face it, for them, even if they ran the table and won, the game against Green Bay on Sunday, one against San Diego, and one against Kansas City, even if they ran the table and went 9-7, I mean, it would still take an absolute miracle of a miracle for them to get in the playoffs because, Kansas City, the Jets, and the Steelers have so many games on them. So with this loss, it's officially the bullet in the skull of the Raiders and their playoff aspirations this year. So obviously it's a depressing thing to talk about. Now I actually missed this game because yesterday I had the absolute worst stomach flu of my adulthood. So by 4 o'clock Eastern time, I was just zonked out and didn't actually open my eyelids again until 7 a.m. the next morning. And I awoke to find out that the Raiders lost 30-20. Uh, like I said earlier, it's the end of their season. The next two games are just playing for pride. And in this game, you kind of see everything that the Raiders did right during the 2015 season and also everything they did wrong. Offensively, you can't complain. Derek Carr played very well with some exceptions. We'll talk about those in a moment. We'll see, 23 completions, 276 yards, two touchdowns, and of course, you're looking at the receiving corps. You can't complain. Amari Cooper, 6 receptions, 120 yards, two touchdowns. The best game he's ever had as a professional football player. Uh, you got Michael Crabtree doing what he does. He's got 6 receptions, 70 yards. Even the backups, Michael Rivera, Clive Walford, Andre Holmes, all looking very good. Clearly, the receiving game for the Raiders, when it gets clicking, and that has been a problem getting the gas ignited. But when they get rolling offensively, they are putting up a ton of points. Secondly, the rushing game did pretty well. They actually outran Green Bay, 120 yards to 103 yards. And Latavius Murray, he's in that spot where he's good. I mean, he's eclipsed 1,000 yards for the season by now, hasn't he? If he hasn't, I'll be really surprised. So he's a very, very good back, but he's not really a great back. If the Raiders had a guy like Marshawn Lynch, from 2 years ago, this will be without question a playoff team because it gives them that dynamic. But like I said, I mean, it's a very good run attack. More often than not, it's been clicking, and can't complain about that. So the receiving game is good. The rushing game is adequate enough. So where do the Raiders falter in this game? And really, by virtue of the entire season? Well, it's because they still have some defensive problems. Clearly, they're having a lot of trouble covering the deep threat. They don't have the corners. And we'll talk about Charles Woodson in a minute because you got to talk about Charles Woodson. He really deserves his own video, actually. But that's been a problem. The secondary tradition for the Raiders has been bad. They've been beat on the torch. On the flat routes, especially with really good tight ends, have just crushed them for years and years now. So really, heading into the 2016 draft, if selection number 1 and selection number 2 aren't a pair of corners, I'm done. As far as the green rushing attack for the Raiders, much improved. You saw that in this game where they only allowed Green Bay to barely get 103 yards. So yeah, that's been way, way improved. We saw it against Denver last week. That's good. So defensively, you got to beat the guys on the aerial game. You got to beef up on that. They're still making a lot of penalties, but what else is new? But the thing that's really costing the Raiders, the thing that I saw watching this game, and this is such an intangible because, the best weapon that the Raiders have can also be their biggest weakness, and that's Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr has played fantastically this season. I'm glad he's our quarterback. He's already one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league. He's going to be an MVP in a couple of years. The dude is great. But the thing is, you know what? He gets the pressure on. He makes some bad passes. And, this game against Green Bay, that pick six pretty much sealed the fate of the Raiders. The first game against Denver, that certainly sealed their fate. He had some dumb throws against Pittsburgh, which cost us that game. So there are so many close games. There's been at least 3 or 4 where the Raiders had a very, very good shot of winning them. The Detroit game, the Chicago game, the Pittsburgh game, the first Denver game. These are all games the Raiders could have won if it wasn't for the bad choices by Derek Carr. Now, it's not all his fault. You got to give the O-line some credit, but by and large, the O-line is much, much, much improved. I mean, that's only going to get better. Rodney Hudson being out, that's a huge blow, but that's neither here nor there. Compared to, the 2009 O-line, this one is just way beyond words. So the fact of the matter is, as good as Derek Carr is, he's still got some rust. He's going to make those bad throws. He's going to make those dumb calls. But he's so talented. He's so versatile. And he's got such precision. He's got good aim. He's got so many great receivers that really the only thing Carr needs is he just needs to kind of step back in the offseason. He's got to work on his perception. He's got to work on timing. He's got to work on the fundamentals. He's got to work on the things that, look at what Cam Newton's doing. I mean, this guy's precision is just wicked, like insanely accurate. And, well, Derek Carr's not really as mobile as Cam Newton, but still. So he's got to work on that. He's got to get those good timing shots. He's got to go in there. He's got to, kind of relax, not try to go for the deep threat. And on the other side of the ball, the receiver's got to catch it. Amari Cooper, been the story of the season for him, all those drop passes. Now, he played well this time, so heading into 2016, you got to have both parts. You got to have Derek Carr making those good throws, and of course, you have to have the receivers actually holding on to them. Now, like I said, I believe I said the Raiders would go 7-9 in my prediction video at the beginning of the year, and that's probably what they're going to end up with, 7-9. They'll probably beat San Diego. Don't know about Kansas City. So 8-8 is really our best hope at this point. Probably won't get that. So what do we have to look forward to heading into 2016? Well, we're going to find out. These next two games, the Raiders are not playing for the postseason. They're just playing for pride. They're going there playing against teams that are kind of taking their foot off the gas. And the Raiders are going to try to make a point. They're going to show them, you know what? Okay, we didn't make the playoffs this year, but we're good. Our defense is improved. Our offense is improved. We have all these weapons. Next year, we're coming for you. And, as bad as the loss was against Green Bay, just looking at the roster, looking at the depth chart, looking at all these talented guys and how many few pieces the Raiders really need now to succeed. It's not like it was years ago where they needed a running back, they needed a quarterback, they needed like 6 or 7 defenders. I mean, it's a team that's right there at turning the corner. And I think next year the Raiders actually will make the playoffs. But we're going to see. We're going to see that playoff team emerging or not emerging over the next 2 weeks. How they're going to play in these completely meaningless games really going to dictate where I think they're headed. We're going to see the best. We're going to see what they need to work on. And we're going to see, hopefully, a team that's going to have a lot of high expectations heading into the new football season. All right. So after that, probably the biggest thing about the game actually wasn't in the game itself. It's the announcement that Charles Woodson has retired. And that's really a huge blow to the team because he's been playing so great for a dude who's 38. He's like in defensive MVP discussions. He was defensive AFC Player of the Month. When was it? October, I believe he was. So the dude is still playing a really high caliber play. I'd love to see him do another season, but you know what? You got to go out when you got to go out. David Emerson is a really good player. So obviously, first round draft, the Raiders are going for a cornerback. When the draft gets here, we'll do a really in-depth video about that. So we know where the Raiders need to go. Charles Woodson, like I said, this dude has been playing just his heart out. When he came back to the Raiders, that was such a huge moment for me. It got me a little misty-eyed. I remember I was in high school during the Gannon years. I had my Woodson jersey on, feeling like a pimp. So, having him finally call it off, I mean, it's a tough blow, especially because he's been playing so good. It's not like this is a dude who's like washed up. I mean, he's one of the best defensive players for the Raiders. He's one of the best defensive players in the AFC. So that's it's a big loss. But you know what? He deserves it. I hope he has a happy retirement. He's going to come back, almost starting to get a coaching job for the Raiders. And you know what? I really wish we could have went out with one more playoff game. I'd love to see him just smack the crap out of Tom Brady one last time. But you know what? He had a hell of a career. I really can't say anything bad about that. All right, so to wrap up, on Sunday, the 20th, the Packers beat the Raiders 30-20. Now, Thursday night, we're going to have what may very well be the last Raiders game in Oakland for the foreseeable future, taking on the Chargers. Huge game. Not really because there's anything on the line, because there isn't, but just out of, sheer nostalgia. This could be something we're going to be remembering for a long time to come. So I don't know what you're doing on Christmas Eve. I'm going to my girlfriend's house. I don't know if they have the NFL Network, but I know my iPad has ESPN, so don't even think I'm missing that one. So we'll see. So Raiders fall to 6-8, officially out of playoff contention. Now all eyes turn towards 2016. No Woodson, but you got Carr. You got a lot of great receivers. You got an improving defense, and you've got those all-important draft picks. So what's it going to be? Is it going to be the old school Raiders or the old school Faders? Well, these next two games, we're going to find out.